The billionaire tech CEO kicked out his pregnant wife because of his mother. What she did next shocked the world. She stood in the doorway of the conference room, her 6-year-old son clutching her hand, and looked directly at the man who had destroyed her life 7 years ago. Wesley Gregg froze by the window. His coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. His face went pale as his eyes moved from Doris to the child beside her, doing calculations that were 6 years too late. "Doris," he managed. His voice cracked on her name. "Who is that?" "This is Noah." "Noah, say hello to Mr. Gregg." The boy looked up with intelligent eyes that held no warmth. "Hello." Wesley set his coffee down with trembling hands. "How old is he?" 6. His birthday is September 14th. She watched him count backward. Watched the realization slam into him like a freight train. September. 9 months before that was December. December, when he had thrown her out of their home. December, when security had escorted her from this very building while she begged him to listen. December, when she had been carrying his child, and he had called her every terrible name he could think of. "He is mine," Wesley whispered. It was not a question. Doris tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. Biologically, yes. In every other way that matters, that remains to be seen. Noah tugged at her hand. "Mama, is this the man from the old pictures? The ones you think I do not know about?" The question hung in the air like a detonation. Wesley looked like someone had reached into his chest and squeezed his heart until it stopped beating. "Why did you not tell me?" His voice broke completely now. 6 years, Doris. 6 years I did not know my own son existed. Doris walked further into the conference room, guiding Noah to a chair at the massive table. She pulled out a tablet loaded with games and handed it to him. "Sit here, baby. The adults need to talk about boring grown-up things. Are we in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. Not at all. Just be patient for me." She turned back to Wesley, and when she spoke again, her voice carried an edge sharp enough to draw blood. "You want to know why I did not tell you? You want to have that conversation right now, right here, with our son sitting 3 feet away? Because I can give you the answer, Wesley. But it will not be pretty." He sank into a chair like his legs had simply given up on him. "Then tell me. I need to understand." Doris remained standing. She looked down at him, and there was something in her eyes that made him flinch. Something cold and controlled and absolutely devastating. "You threw me out of our home while I was pregnant. You believed lies about me without ever asking for my side of the story. You had security escort me from this building like I was a criminal. You called me things I cannot repeat in front of my child. And you did all of that because your mother showed you fabricated evidence and you chose to believe her over me." She paused, letting the words sink in. "So no, Wesley, I did not tell you about Noah. I did not tell you because I needed to protect him from a man who could abandon the woman he claimed to love without a single moment of doubt. I needed to make sure I could give him a good life before I let anyone else into it. And I needed to become strong enough that if you ever tried to hurt him the way you hurt me, I would have the power to stop you." Wesley's face crumpled with something that looked like genuine anguish. "I was wrong. I know I was wrong. My mother, she showed me messages, photographs. I thought you were having an affair with Marcus. I thought everything we had was a lie. And you never once considered that maybe, just maybe, the photographs and messages were the lie. I should have." He buried his face in his hands. "I should have trusted you. I should have at least listened. Yes, you should have. But you did not." Noah looked up from his tablet, his young face serious beyond his years. "Mama, why does he look like he is going to cry?" "Because he is realizing something important, baby. Something he should have realized a long time ago. What would you do if the person you loved most in the world threw you away based on lies? What would you do if they believed someone else over you without giving you a single chance to defend yourself? What would you do if you found yourself pregnant, alone, and standing on the sidewalk outside the building where your entire life had just imploded? Most people would crumble. Most people would give up. But Doris Clifford was not most people. And what she did next did not just shock the world. It terrified everyone who had ever underestimated her, including Wesley Gregg himself. But to understand how she got here, we need to go back. Back to before the betrayal. Back to before the lies. Back to when Doris believed in love and Wesley believed his mother could do no wrong. The glass doors of Novatech Industries had opened for Doris Clifford 8 years ago, when she was still a junior software engineer with a Stanford degree and 3 patents to her name. She had been hired to lead a machine learning project that everyone said was impossible. 6 months later, she had made it possible. And Wesley Gregg, the brilliant CEO who had built Novatech from a garage startup into a billion-dollar enterprise, had noticed. Their courtship had been the stuff of corporate legend. The genius engineer and the visionary CEO, working late nights together, finishing each other's sentences in board meetings, building something that felt inevitable. When he proposed on the rooftop of Novatech Tower with the San Francisco skyline glittering behind them, Doris had said yes before he finished the question. But there was someone who did not share in their happiness. Someone who watched from the shadows with cold eyes and calculating patience. Someone who believed that Doris Clifford was not good enough for her son and never would be. Constance Gregg had built her entire identity around her relationship with Wesley. After her husband's death when Wesley was 12, she had poured everything into raising him, shaping him, controlling him. She had approved of his business ventures. She had approved of his success. But she had never approved of any woman who threatened to become more important to him than she was. And Doris Clifford was not just any woman. Doris was smart, confident, and completely unwilling to be intimidated by Wesley's mother. Doris did not defer to Constance. Doris did not seek her approval. Doris treated her with polite respect, and nothing more. This was unacceptable. For the first year of their marriage, Constance observed. She attended dinners and smiled at the right moments and said all the correct things. But behind that pleasant facade, she was planning, waiting, looking for the perfect opportunity to remove this interloper from her son's life. That opportunity came in the form of Marcus Webb. Marcus was Wesley's business partner and oldest friend. They had built Novatech together from the very beginning. Marcus handled operations while Wesley handled vision. They trusted each other completely. At least, Wesley trusted Marcus completely. Marcus, as it turned out, had a secret. He had gambling debts. Significant gambling debts. The kind of debts that made people desperate. The kind of debts that made people susceptible to offers from wealthy women who wanted favors. Constance approached him at a company party, her voice low and her checkbook ready. "I need your help with something delicate, Marcus. Something that would benefit everyone involved, especially you." "What kind of help?" "Doris is not right for my son. She is using him, manipulating him, and he cannot see it because he is blinded by whatever he thinks he feels for her. I need evidence that she is unfaithful. Evidence that will make Wesley see the truth." Marcus had stared at her. "But Doris is not unfaithful. She loves Wesley. Anyone can see that." Constance smiled. "The evidence does not need to be real, Marcus. It just needs to be convincing." It took Marcus 3 weeks to fabricate everything Constance needed. Text messages that appeared to be between Doris and him, filled with intimate language and secret meeting times. Photographs doctored to show them together in compromising situations. A paper trail that painted a picture of a months-long affair happening right under Wesley's nose. Marcus delivered the package to Constance with shaking hands and a sick feeling in his stomach. She paid him $500,000 and told him to forget they had ever spoken. 1 week later, Constance invited herself to dinner at Wesley and Doris's home. She waited until Doris excused herself to the bathroom. Then she placed the folder on the table in front of her son. "I am sorry, darling. I know this will hurt, but you need to see who your wife really is." Wesley opened the folder. The next few minutes were a blur that Doris would replay in her nightmares for years to come. She returned from the bathroom to find her husband standing in the middle of their living room, his face twisted with rage, holding photographs she had never seen before. "What are these?" she asked, confused. "Wesley, what is wrong? How long?" His voice was a growl she did not recognize. "How long have you been sleeping with Marcus behind my back?" "What?" "Wesley, I do not know what you are talking about. I am not sleeping with anyone. I would never betray you like that." He threw the photographs at her feet. They scattered across the hardwood floor, images of her and Marcus in situations that had never happened. "Do not lie to me. My mother found the truth. She showed me the messages. She showed me everything." Doris looked at Constance, who sat in the corner with an expression of false sympathy and barely concealed triumph. Understanding dawned like ice water in her veins. "Wesley, please listen to me. Whatever she showed you, it is not real. Your mother fabricated this. She has never wanted us to be together. Do you not see what she is doing? Do not try to blame my mother for your infidelity." He was shouting now, veins standing out on his neck. "She is the only person in my life who has never lied to me. I am not lying to you. I have never lied to you." Wesley, I love you. I would never do this to us. But he was not listening. He'd already made up his mind. Constance had spent years conditioning him to trust her above all others, and now that conditioning was paying off exactly as she had planned. Get out, Wesley said, his voice dropping to something worse than a shout. Something cold and final. Get out of my house. Wesley, please. I am begging you to listen. I am pregnant. The words fell into the silence like stones into still water. For one moment, one desperate moment, Doris thought she saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt. Hope. Love. Then Constance spoke from her corner. Of course she is claiming to be pregnant now. It is the oldest manipulation in the book. And even if she is, how do you know it is yours? The flicker died. Wesley's face went hard again. Is it even mine? He asked, and the cruelty in his voice was a knife between her ribs. Doris felt something inside her break. Not crack. Break. Completely and irrevocably. Yes, she said quietly. It is yours. But clearly that does not matter to you. She did not fight when he called security. She did not scream or cry or beg anymore. What was the point? He had chosen. He had chosen his mother's poison over her truth, and nothing she said would change his mind. The security guards escorted her to the bedroom to pack a single suitcase. Constance watched from the hallway, that same cold smile on her face. Wesley stood at the window with his back turned, refusing to look at her. Doris walked out of her home with nothing but her clothes, her laptop, and the baby growing inside her that her husband did not believe was his. The glass doors of Novatech Industries closed behind her for what she thought would be the last time. She stood on the sidewalk in the December cold, pregnant and homeless and utterly alone. The life she had built, the love she had trusted, the future she had imagined, all of it was gone in the span of an hour. A lesser person would have crumbled right there, would have sat down on that cold sidewalk and let the despair swallow her whole. But Doris Clifford did not crumble. She pulled out her phone. She called every friend she had, every contact who might help her. Most did not answer. The ones who did made excuses. Constance had been busy, it seemed, spreading whispers, poisoning wells, making sure that anyone who might have supported Doris believed she was exactly the villain Constance had painted her to be. By midnight, Doris had nowhere to go. She slept in her car that night, parked in a grocery store lot, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. You and me, she whispered to the child inside her. That is all we have now. But I promise you, I will make it enough. I will make it more than enough. I will build us a life so big and so strong that no one will ever be able to take it away from us. It was a promise spoken to a baby who could not yet hear her. It was a promise she would keep. Now, before we continue with how Doris turned her lowest moment into her greatest triumph, I need to pause and speak directly to you. If you have ever been wrongly accused, if you have ever watched someone believe lies about you while you stood there helpless to defend yourself, I need you to drop a comment right now. Tell me your story. Tell me if you fought back or if you walked away. What Doris does next is going to change everything you think you know about revenge, about success, and about what it really means to win. But I need to know you are with me before we go further. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Turn on those notifications, because this story is about to take a turn that nobody, especially not Wesley Gregg and his manipulative mother, ever saw coming. Now let us get back to Doris, sleeping in her car with nothing but a promise and a baby on the way. The first month was survival in its most basic form. Doris drove to Portland because it was far enough from San Francisco that she would not accidentally encounter anyone from her old life. She found a shelter that accepted pregnant women and swallowed her pride long enough to accept a bed and 3 meals a day. During the days, she haunted coffee shops and libraries, using free Wi-Fi to apply for jobs. But the tech industry was smaller than people realized. Word had spread about her supposed affair, about her dramatic exit from Novatech. Companies that had once fought to hire her now did not return her calls. Fine, she thought. If no one will hire me, I will hire myself. She still had her laptop. She still had her skills. She still had 3 patents and a mind that could outcode anyone she had ever met. She started taking freelance projects, small ones at first, bug fixes and simple applications that paid barely enough to cover her meals. But she did them perfectly, delivered them early, and slowly built a reputation that had nothing to do with Wesley Gregg or Novatech or any of the lies Constance had spread. By her 6th month of pregnancy, Doris had saved enough to rent a tiny apartment. One room, barely big enough for a bed and a desk, but it was hers. She set up her workstation next to the window and coded until her eyes burned, taking breaks only to eat, sleep, and feel her baby kick against her ribs. Noah was born in September, 3 weeks early, in a hospital where Doris knew no one. She held him for the first time with tears streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness, though sadness was there. Tears of determination, tears of promise. "You will never know what it feels like to be powerless," she whispered to him. "I swear to you, Noah, you will never know." The first year of Noah's life was the hardest thing Doris had ever done. She coded with one hand while holding a bottle in the other. She took client calls while walking a colicky baby around her tiny apartment at 3 in the morning. She learned to function on 4 hours of sleep because that was all she could afford when she was building a business and raising a child entirely alone. But she did it. Every single day she did it. By Noah's first birthday, Doris had saved enough money to hire her first employee, a young developer fresh out of college who was willing to work for equity instead of a salary because she believed in what Doris was building. "What are we building exactly?" the young woman asked during her interview. "We are building an artificial intelligence company that will change how businesses operate," Doris replied. "We are building something that the people who threw me away will one day have to acknowledge. And we are building it from absolutely nothing." The company was called Sterling Technologies. Sterling, because Doris had legally changed her name back to her maiden name the moment her divorce was finalized. She wanted nothing of Wesley Gregg attached to her anymore. Not his name, not his money, not his memory. Year 1 was survival. Doris and her small team worked out of her apartment, taking any project that paid while developing their core artificial intelligence platform in whatever hours remained. Year 2 was stability. They landed their first major contract with a mid-sized logistics company that needed help automating their supply chain. The project was a massive success. Word spread. More contracts followed. Year 3 was growth. Sterling Technologies moved into a real office. The team expanded from 3 people to 15. Doris was named one of Forbes 30 under 30, though she barely had time to attend the ceremony because she was too busy closing their biggest deal yet. Year 4 was explosion. A Fortune 500 company adopted their AI platform and reported 40% efficiency gains. Suddenly, everyone wanted what Sterling Technologies was selling. Investors came knocking. Media came calling. The woman who had been thrown out of Novatech with nothing was now being profiled in every major business publication in the country. Year 5 was domination. Sterling Technologies went from regional player to national powerhouse. They opened offices in Seattle, Denver, and Austin. They filed 12 new patents. Their valuation climbed past $100 million and kept climbing. Year 6 was vindication. Doris stood in the corner office of Sterling Technologies' new San Francisco headquarters, looking out at a skyline that included Novatech Tower in the distance. She was worth $200 million. She employed over 300 people. She had built, from nothing but determination and talent, exactly what she had promised her newborn son she would build. And she was not finished yet, because during those 6 years of building and growing and succeeding, Doris had been watching Novatech struggle with the same technological challenges her company had solved, watching Wesley make strategic mistakes that cost him market share, watching the company he had built begin to crack under the pressure of competitors who were faster, smarter, more innovative. Competitors like Sterling Technologies. The acquisition offer had been Doris's idea from the very beginning. Not revenge, she told her board when she proposed it. Strategic advantage. Novatech has infrastructure and market presence. We have technology and momentum. Combined, we become unstoppable. But her board members were not fools. They saw the history in her eyes. They knew what Novatech's CEO had done to her. "Are you sure you can handle this?" her chief operating officer asked carefully. "Working with him? Seeing him every day?" Doris smiled, and there was something in that smile that made her coo shiver. "I have spent 6 years preparing for this moment. I can handle anything." The acquisition offer landed on Novatech's board of directors table on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, Wesley Gregg knew exactly who was trying to buy his company. And that was when Doris requested a meeting. Which brings us back to that conference room, back to Wesley's devastated face, back to Noah sitting at the table with his tablet, back to the moment when everything Wesley thought he knew about his life came crashing down around him. "You are trying to buy my company," Wesley said, still processing the documents Doris had handed him. The acquisition offer, the financial projections, the merger terms that would make Sterling Technologies the dominant force in enterprise AI. "I am trying to save your company," Doris corrected. "There is a difference. Your R&D department is bleeding money on projects that will never reach market. Your cloud infrastructure is 3 years behind the competition. Your AI division, the one you built your reputation on, has been outpaced by at least 4 competitors, including mine." Wesley stared at the numbers. He could not argue with them. Every word she said was true. "I did not come here for revenge," Doris continued. "If I wanted revenge, I would have let your company collapse and bought the pieces for pennies at bankruptcy auction. Instead, I am offering you a merger that preserves your legacy, saves your employees' jobs, and creates something stronger than either of us could build alone." "Why?" Wesley looked up at her with genuine confusion. "After everything I did to you, why would you help me?" "Because I am not like you. I do not make decisions based on emotion or manipulation. I make decisions based on what is right and what is smart. This merger is both." She paused, glancing at Noah, who was still absorbed in his tablet but clearly listening to every word. "And because our son deserves to know his father. If his father proves himself worthy of knowing." The weight of that hung between them like a verdict. Wesley was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I want to know him, really know him, not just for appearances or business arrangements. I want to be his father." "Wanting is not enough," Doris replied. "Doing is what matters. You might want that right now, in this moment, with Shoc making everything feel urgent and important. But fatherhood is not a boardroom, Wesley. You cannot delegate it when it gets boring. You cannot schedule it around acquisitions. Noah is a child who needs consistency, not a part-time parent who shows up when convenient. I understand that. Do you? Because 6 years ago, you chose convenience over commitment. You chose your mother's comfortable lies over the inconvenient truth. What is different now?" "Everything," Wesley said. "Everything is different. 6 years ago, I was building an empire and measuring success in dollars. I thought achievement could substitute for living. I was wrong about so many things." "Pretty words," Doris observed. "But I have heard your pretty words before. They did not mean much when you were throwing me out of our home while I was pregnant with your child." Noah set down his tablet. The conversation had clearly reached a point he could no longer pretend to ignore. "Mama, why are you so angry at him?" Doris closed her eyes briefly. She had promised herself she would not do this, would not let old bitterness poison the air around her son. "Because sometimes adults make mistakes that hurt other adults," she explained gently. "And it takes a long time to stop being angry about those mistakes." Noah considered this with the seriousness of a child processing complicated information. Then he turned to Wesley. "Were you mean to my mama?" "Yes," Wesley answered without hesitation. "I was cruel and unfair, and I believed things about her that were not true. I hurt her very badly. That is not her opinion. It is fact." The honesty seemed to satisfy Noah more than any excuse would have. He nodded slowly, processing. "Are you sorry?" "More sorry than I know how to explain." "Then why did you do it?" Wesley looked at Doris, then back at Noah. The question deserved a real answer, and he knew it. "Because I was a coward. Someone I trusted told me lies about your mother, and I chose to believe those lies instead of trusting the woman I married. I did not ask questions. I did not give her a chance to explain. I just decided she was guilty without any real proof." "That is not fair," Noah said. "No, it was not fair at all. My teacher says, when you do something wrong, you have to make it right. How are you going to make it right?" Wesley met his son's eyes, and in that moment, Doris saw something she had not expected. Genuine pain, genuine remorse, genuine desire to do better. "I do not know yet," Wesley admitted, "but I would like the chance to try. If you will let me." Noah looked at Doris. She gives a small nod. "We will think about it," Noah said with the gravity of someone making a major decision. "That is what Mama says when she needs time to decide something important." "That is very fair," Wesley replied. "Take all the time you need. Now, we are at the halfway point of this story, and I need to ask you something important. Do you think Wesley deserves a second chance? Or do you think Doris should keep him at a distance forever? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one. And if you know someone who has been through something similar, someone who was betrayed by the people who should have protected them, share this video with them. Let them know that survival is not just possible, it is powerful. Hit that like button if this story is resonating with you. It helps more people discover these narratives. Now, what I am about to reveal is the moment that broke Wesley Gregg completely, because the monster he had been protecting all those years was not who he thought she was. After the conference room meeting, Doris and Noah returned to their hotel. The merger negotiations would take months, and she had no intention of rushing them. Wesley would have to prove himself through actions, not words, before she allowed him any significant access to their son. But Wesley could not wait months to understand what had really happened 6 years ago. That night, alone in his penthouse apartment, he began to dig. He started with the evidence his mother had shown him. The text messages, the photographs, the paper trail that had convinced him his wife was unfaithful. For the first time in 6 years, he looked at them with skeptical eyes instead of wounded ones. The photographs were good, professional quality, but when he examined them closely, really closely, he noticed inconsistencies. Shadows falling in wrong directions, backgrounds that did not quite match, the telltale signs of digital manipulation that he had been too angry to see before. The text messages were harder to verify, but he remembered something Marcus had said at his funeral 3 years ago, something that had not made sense at the time. Marcus had drunk himself to death. Everyone knew that. But before he died, he had become increasingly erratic, guilty. He had tried multiple times to speak to Wesley privately, but Wesley had been too busy, too distracted, too convinced that whatever Marcus wanted to say was not important. Now Wesley wondered what his old friend had been trying to tell him. He spent the next week investigating. He hired a private forensic analyst to examine the photographs and messages. He tracked down former employees who had been close to Marcus in his final years. He dug through old files and correspondence that his mother had handled on his behalf. And that was when he found the letter. It was buried in a filing cabinet in his mother's office at Nova Tech. A cabinet marked personal and confidential. A cabinet his mother had told him contained old family documents that were not relevant to business. The letter was from Marcus Webb. It was dated 3 years ago, 2 months before his death. It was addressed to the Nova Tech Board of Directors. Wesley read it with hands that would not stop shaking. To the Board of Directors of Nova Tech Industries, the letter began. I am writing this letter because I cannot live with what I have done any longer. 3 years ago, I was approached by Constance Gregg with an offer I should have refused. She paid me $500,000 to fabricate evidence against Doris Clifford Gregg. The text messages were fake. The photographs were doctored. The affair never happened. Doris was completely faithful to Wesley. She was also pregnant with his child when he threw her out of their home based on evidence I created. I've tried to tell Wesley the truth multiple times, but Constance has blocked my every attempt. She has threatened to expose my gambling debts and destroy what remains of my reputation if I speak to him directly. I am sending this letter to the board in hopes that someone will have the courage to show Wesley the truth. Doris deserved better than what we did to her. Wesley deserved to know his wife was innocent, and I deserve whatever judgment comes my way for my role in this deception. I am sorry. I am so deeply sorry. Marcus Webb. Wesley read the letter 3 times. Then he sat in his mother's office and stared at nothing for 2 hours. His mother had hidden this. His mother had watched him suffer for 3 years, watched him struggle with guilt and loneliness and confusion, and she had hidden the evidence that would have set everything right. His mother had known all along that Doris was innocent. The confrontation happened that same night. Wesley drove to his mother's estate, the letter clutched in his hand, his heart pounding with a rage he had never felt before. Constance opened the door with her usual composed smile. Wesley, darling, what a lovely surprise. Come in. I will have Maria make tea. He did not come in. He held up the letter. What is this, Mother? Her smile faltered, just for a moment, but Wesley saw it. I do not know what you are talking about. This is a letter from Marcus Webb, a confession letter, explaining how you paid him $500,000 to fabricate evidence against my wife, my innocent wife, my wife who was pregnant with my child when I threw her out based on lies you created. Constance's expression shifted. The pleasant mask dropped away, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. I was protecting you. Protecting me? You destroyed my marriage. You cost me 6 years with my son. You let me believe lies about the woman I loved. How is that protecting me? She was not good enough for you. She came from nothing. She had no family connections, no social standing, no appreciation for what our name means. I gave you a chance to find someone appropriate. Wesley stared at his mother like he was seeing her for the first time. You are insane. You are actually insane. I am practical. I did what needed to be done for this family. You did not do it for this family. You did it for yourself, because you could not stand the idea that someone else might be more important to me than you. Constance's eyes went hard. Everything I have ever done has been for you. Everything I sacrificed, everything I built, everything I protected. You would be nothing without me. I would be a man with a wife and a child who grew up knowing his father. Instead, I am a man who threw away the only woman who ever truly loved me because my mother could not tolerate sharing me. He turned to leave. Constance grabbed his arm. Wesley, you cannot do this. I am your mother. Blood is thicker than water. He pulled free of her grip. You are no longer my mother. You are no longer on the board of Novatech. You are no longer welcome in my home or my life. If you contact me again, if you come anywhere near my son, I will tell the world exactly what you did. He walked out of her estate and never looked back. The next morning, Wesley called Doris and told her everything. He told her about the letter, about his mother's confession, about the confrontation and the complete severance of their relationship. He did not make excuses or try to minimize his own role in what had happened. I should have questioned the evidence, he said. I should have trusted you. I should have been a better man. That is on me, not my mother. She manipulated me, but I let myself be manipulated. Doris listened in silence. I am not telling you this because I expect forgiveness, Wesley continued. I am telling you because you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know that you were not crazy, that you were not wrong to defend yourself, that everything you believed about what happened was accurate. Thank you, Doris said finally, for telling me. What happens now? What happens now as we continue with the merger negotiations? What happens now as you start visiting Noah under supervised conditions and prove yourself through consistent action over time? What happens now as we build something new instead of trying to resurrect something that died 6 years ago? And us? There is no us, Wesley. Not anymore. Maybe not ever again. But there can be a functional co-parenting relationship if you do the work. I will do the work, Wesley promised. Whatever it takes, for as long as it takes. We are approaching the end of this journey, and I need you here with me for the final chapter. This story started with betrayal and destruction, but how it ends is where the real lesson lives. If you are not already subscribed, hit that button now. Turn on notifications, because stories like this, stories about survival and redemption and choosing to be better, these are what we do here at Mr. Kingsley Luck Stories. Now, the question everyone has been asking. Will Doris ever truly forgive Wesley? Or is survival enough? The months that followed were not easy, but they were honest. Wesley visited Noah twice a month under Doris's supervision. He learned to be present instead of productive. He listened to his son talk about neural networks and artificial intelligence with genuine fascination. He attended school plays and soccer games and parent-teacher conferences without ever checking his phone. He did the work. Every single day, he did the work. The merger finalized 6 months after that first conference room meeting. Sterling Novatech became the largest enterprise AI company in North America, with Doris as CEO and Wesley in an advisory role that allowed him to focus on what actually mattered. He sold his San Francisco penthouse and bought a house 3 miles from Doris's home. Close enough to be part of daily life, far enough to respect boundaries. 1 year after their reunion, Doris and Wesley sat on her back porch while Noah slept upstairs. They had fallen into a routine of these evening conversations, discussing Noah's progress, planning schedules, sometimes just sitting in comfortable silence. Can I ask you something? Wesley said, not as Noah's father, just as someone who cares about you. That depends on the question. Are you happy? Doris considered the question honestly. I am content. I have work that matters. I have a child I love. I have a life I built from nothing. That is more than most people get. Content is not happy. Maybe not. But after 6 years of fighting for survival, content is enough for me. Wesley was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Even when I believed lies about you. Even when I was too stupid and proud to question what I was told. Some part of me never stopped loving who you were. I know I have no right to say that. I know I lost any claim to your heart 6 years ago. But I need you to know that if you ever decided to give me another chance, I would spend the rest of my life earning it." Doris looked at him for a long moment. This was not the man who had thrown her out of their home. This was someone different. Someone broken and rebuilt. Someone who had done the work. "I do not know if I can ever love you again," she said honestly. "What I felt for you, I am not sure it survived what happened. But I feel something that could grow, if you keep being who you have become." "That is enough," Wesley said. "That is more than I ever hoped for." 3 years later, they renewed the vows they had broken. It was a small ceremony. Just close friends and Noah, who served as ring bearer and informed everyone that statistically, their chances of a successful remarriage were higher than average, given their demonstrated commitment to behavioral change. "He gets the romance from you," Wesley whispered to Doris. "He gets the analysis from you," she whispered back. "He gets the stubbornness from both of us. God help the world when he grows up." They kissed, and their son made dramatically disgusted faces, and somewhere out there, Constance Gregg learned that some manipulations do not work out the way you plan. This story is not about revenge. It is about refusal. Doris refused to let her worst moment define her entire story. She refused to become bitter when she had every right to be. She refused to deny her son a father just because that father had failed her. And she refused to let fear keep her from trying again when someone proved they had truly changed. Wesley refused to hide behind his mistakes. He refused to let his mother's manipulation excuse his own choices. He refused to give up when earning forgiveness seemed impossible. And he refused to stop doing the work, even when it would have been easier to walk away. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control who you become because of it. If you have been betrayed, if you have been thrown away, if someone believed lies about you and refused to hear your truth, hear me now. Your story is not over. The person who hurt you does not get to write your ending. You do. Doris Clifford was thrown out of her home pregnant and alone. 7 years later, she walked back into that building owning everything her accuser had built. That is not revenge. That is not even success. That is power. Real power. The kind you build from nothing but determination and the absolute refusal to let anyone else define your worth. If this story meant something to you, share it. Let someone else know that survival is not just possible. It is powerful. Subscribe for more stories that remind you what you are capable of. And drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Doris's position. I am Mr. Kingsley, and until next time, keep writing your own story.